March 5th, 2021. So just over 2 years, 2 years and 3 months, I think. My drug choice was alcohol and crack. Um, well, I would smoke my coke, so that's basically crack. The first time, because the underlying issue with me is the alcohol. The first time I drank alcohol, I was in sixth grade, I think, and it was at a party, and my friend and I just walked down the street to his house, and we stole a bottle of Pop Off from his dad, who's a Navy SEAL, so he scared the shit out of us, but we did it anyways. It was a plastic handle. By the time we walked back to the party, the like 3/4 of the handle was gone. Him and I were both trashed. He was a couple years older than me, and and I ended up throwing up everywhere, and it was miserable, man. Like usually people say the first time they get drunk, they loved it. It was like a life-changing experience. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. So, um, I went to like I drank that one time, and then I didn't drink for I'd say like 2 or 3 years, and I was just smoking a bunch of weed, and my whole life revolved around smoking weed. Like everything that I did was to smoke weed. And then I started drinking beer, and I was like, dude, okay, like smoking weed and drinking beer is doesn't really go hand in hand, because I hate getting crossfaded. So so then I just cut the weed out, and I just started drinking a lot. I was just like doing nothing but drinking, and that was probably when I started drinking heavy was probably my sophomore year in high school, and then shortly after that I started sniffing coke, and I sniffed coke on and off up until I was about um, 19, I think. Then I just was drinking again, and then when I turned 20, yeah, like I'd say like a year after that, um, then I started doing it a bunch again, and then I started smoking it. So, when I was 5 years old, my dad died from drinking and driving, actually. He ate a handful of Xanax and decided to get behind the wheel, and, that was it. Um, so I knew from a young age that alcoholism was a thing in my family. My grandfather, also on my mom's side, is a pretty heavy drinker to this day. My mom had her addiction issues when she was in high school and just after high school, basically until she had me. Uh, she was doing a lot of meth, and then when she found out she was pregnant with me, she kind of quit that. But other than that, my mom just smoked weed. She never really drank too much. Like she was just always the cool stoner mom. So growing up, it was kind of I wouldn't say it was encouraged, but it was allowed, to like smoke weed. And then when I started drinking beer a little bit, like it was allowed to drink. And then she saw me like getting kind of overboard with my drinking, and she tried to cut it off, but I was already off to the races. It was too much at that point. I did meth, I don't know, more than a handful of times. I actually lived down in Tennessee for a little bit, and when I was out there, coke is pretty hard to find, so at least good coke. So the next best thing is some trailer park meth, and so I messed around with that for a little bit. Kind of weaned myself off that, and just I always went back to the drink. The drink was always the thing that I went back to. Um, and then when I moved back out here to California, I I picked up coke again, and then it became a huge issue, and I was trying to put it down, but I wouldn't put the drink down. Like the drink was always the thing that I would, like I said, that I would fall back on. So every time that I would get really drunk, I didn't like the feeling of being like blacked out, borderline blacked out drunk. So I'd go to the plug's house and I'd go pick up some blow, and a couple times I'd go to the plug's house and pick up some coke, and it was always the same dude, the same situation. He was smoking fentanyl, and then I was like, I got the case of the fuck it's whenever I drink. So I smoked some Fetty, and every single time I would OD, I'd fall out, and it sucked. And just I thank God every single day that I have, like, even when I was in my addiction, I had a solid group of friends around me that would always bring me back, take me to the hospital. They wouldn't just leave me on the side of the road. The lifestyle, man. It was just hectic. It was always go, go, go. There was always some shit that was popping off somewhere, whether it was a fight or running from the cops or, just crazy women. That was another big part of my downfall was the women I would get involved with. But there was always just something, some sort of drama, some sort of chaos, and I thrive in that. I'm pretty quick on my feet, so I react quick. I'm pretty witty, so that kind of stuff just excited me. So, to an extent, like I would put the drugs and the alcohol down, but the lifestyle would always bring me back, the crime, like the robbing people, the fast lifestyle, man. I just couldn't quit it. Dude, so the craving before I went into treatment, like when I would try to quit on my own, the cravings would just be absolutely insane. Like I can't. It's something unless you've gone through it, you can't even describe it. You wouldn't even know. Um, but the cravings were just nuts, and then I would get the shakes like crazy from the alcohol. Like the alcohol is a super gnarly detox. The coke, the crack, obviously it wasn't that bad, um, but yeah, the alcohol was definitely where it was at with the withdrawals. Like I'd shake, I'd sweat, I'd just be crawling out of my skin, bro. And then when I went into treatment, obviously I couldn't go get a fucking bottle or anything, so I went into treatment, and that's what I needed. I needed that locked door. I needed to be told like you shouldn't leave. And I remember one night, I think it was like my second or third night there. I woke up and the bed was just drenched, dude, and I thought that I pissed myself. Like I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, "Oh shit." And I like smelled the bed and I was like, "Oh, dude, that's sweat, bro." The whole entire bed was just drenched. I was sweating like crazy. And then a couple days after that, the tech took us to a meeting and the battery died on the druggy buggy. So I was the only one there that knew how to jump a car, and I asked someone else at the meeting, like, "Hey, can we use your car to jump our van?" And I go to hook up the cables to like the to our car, and my hands are still shaking. And the lady was like, "Give me those fucking cables. You're still detoxing." And I was like, "Oh shit, dude, I felt like shit." But like, dude, my hands would shake like crazy. Couldn't keep anything down. Like I was shitting blood too. That was gnarly. Yeah, I have no clue where that came from, but yeah, it sucked, man. Like that last detox, like it really sucked. So it was, when was it? It was September of 2020. Like peak COVID, like it was just after my birthday. I'd actually just gotten back into California. I was in Tennessee for 2 weeks because one of my really good friends, Alex, had passed away from a brain aneurysm. 20-year-old kid, brain aneurysm took him out. Um, so I was in a really dark place. That time of year is pretty rough for me because um, like that's around the time that my dad died, and all that kind of stuff too. And so yeah, like I said, I just got back into California, and a friend of mine was playing. He plays in a punk rock band, and he was playing underneath a bridge in Fullerton, California, and it was sick, dude. It was really rad. And that was one of the times that I was trying to like quit doing drugs, and I was just drinking beers. So we get under the bridge, and I'm pounding beers. Beer runs out. Pull out a bottle of Jaeger. I don't even like Jaeger, but the alcoholic in me is saying like, drink that shit. So I drank that. Drank a bottle of something else. I can't even remember. And then I had to drive home. I lived in Lake Forest, and that's a pretty far drive. Like when you're hammered at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So that's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to the plug's house. Like, I'm gonna get some blow, but I'm not gonna smoke it. I'm just gonna snort it, just to sober up a little bit to make the drive home, so I don't get a fucking DUI. And get to the plug's house, like they're smoking Fetty, um, and then I put the blow. I don't even do a line, dude. I put it straight into my wallet, and I'm like, hey, let me get some of that. And then they give me some, and I hit it, and I don't know, dude. I don't remember shit. I wake up in the hospital, like I was butt ass naked for some reason. Have no clue why. And like I just wake up and bright lights and everything. And like I'm kind of a smart ass, And the nurses are like asking me all these questions, and I'm like, where the fuck am I? And they're like, you're at the hospital. And I'm like, yeah, no shit. Like what hospital? And they told me I was all the way down in Mission Viejo. Again, I have no clue how I made it all the way down there, but um, yeah, dude, it was just a wreck. And uh, so how I told you that my dad passed away, I have his birthday and death year on my ribs, and After sitting in the hospital for a little bit, they did some scans because when I went in, I wasn't breathing. I didn't have a pulse, anything like that. So they did some brain scans, and then my mom had came. She was like crying and everything, and she took me home, and I get home and like I have my shirt off, and I look in the mirror and I look at my ribs and I realize what date it is, and it was the same day, like 21 years to the day that my dad had died. So that was an eye opener. It still took me 3 or 4 months to finally break down and get clean. But if my mom had lost me on the same day that my dad had died, it would have just torn her apart. And yeah, so that's when it really planted the seed. And then 3 or 4 months after that, I finally reached out for some help. So a couple months after that overdose, after trying to put everything down on my own 2 or 3 more times and it not working, I reached out to a friend of mine, Ricky, super good homie. I've been really close with his family since I was in high school. I dated one of his cousins, and her sister was my best friend. He passed away too. But so I've been super close with him, his family, everybody for a long time. And when I was in high school, he was a couple years older than me. He was all like strung out on heroin. So we would go to punk rock shows and stuff all the time. And and then my friend had actually, like, he had gone sober, and then a really good friend of mine, another friend of mine from high school, had married him. And so I knew that he was sober. Like, I knew she worked in the treatment industry, and as did he. So I kind of reached out to him, and I called Morgan, his wife, originally, and I was like, hey, dude, like, I got a homegirl that wants to go to treatment, but she doesn't have insurance. Like, how do we go about this? And then so Morgan sends me like a list of like female programs, like starts asking me all these questions, like, is she pregnant? Is she this? Is she that? And I'm like, fuck, like, you're not answering my question. So then I reach out to Ricky, and Ricky's like, what's up? You got a homegirl that wants to go to treatment? And I'm like, no, it's me. Like, I want to go to treatment. And he literally said, it's about fucking time. So he's like, let me call you back in a couple minutes. He called his spot that he worked at. They got me in on a scholarship because, like I said, I didn't have insurance or anything like that. So I just had to wait for a bed to open up, and that took like 3 or 4 days. And then, um, I packed a bag and didn't really want to leave, but I packed a bag, picked up a bag, and then, they came and they pulled up at my house, and Morgan came inside, and she fucking grabbed my bag and everything and said, get in the fucking car. So that's what I did, and yeah, dude, just been off to the races since then. Like, I'd say the biggest thing that I would owe my success to and everything would be the group of men that I surround myself with today. Um, Even before I was getting sober, I reached out to my boy Ricky, and he's really solid in the program. He's really solid in the industry of recovery, and he kind of opened up that door. Opened up to the door to the rest of the fellowship that I spend every single day with today. So one piece of advice that I can give you is just surround yourself with winners, man. Like, find someone who has something that you want, and then just hang out with them. Because like, if you hang out with someone that's successful, you're not gonna want to be like a loser. Like, you're gonna want to like keep up with them, and you're gonna want to be successful, whether it's like in business or like a successful family life or successful in your recovery, like whatever it may be. Like, just latch yourself onto that kind of person.